Anyway, all right. So welcome to the Pour Me a Story podcast. I am so happy you are here. As you know, my background, I'm a fake chef. I went to culinary school. My husband calls me a fraud, but I did not end up, I finished the program, but I did not end up making wedding cakes. But I still love food and booze and everything that goes with it and chefs. And I got to meet Chef Chris Coombs, and we hit it off. I've eaten his food. I know. Oh my God. Right? Like, we are a success story in the friendship world. So I really can't thank you enough for being here.
My pleasure.
And then I stalked you, of course, so I know everything about you. And then so it's just funny because, I mean, how many restaurants do you even have now? I need to know how you got to Natick from the city.
Yeah.
I need to know everything. So, but first, thank you for being here. We're drinking light tonight, guys. He's got to drive and work, and last time I drank too much. Yes. Cheers, coffee. Last time I drank too much on the pod, I couldn't pick up my kid at school.
I mean, it sounds fun, but not for today.
It is. Exactly. So, but seriously, thank you for being here. And
thank you for having me.
I have a deep respect for chefs, pastry and otherwise. Mine was, I know a lot. I worked in a lot of kitchens doing the other side, but my goal, truly, I really thought I was going to go make pastry.
Sure.
And then I realized about halfway through, I just wanted to eat it.
Yeah.
And also, I like good food and good booze, and I can't afford it on a pastry chef salary.
Fair. Yeah, the salaries can be challenging. That's for sure. You got to really have a passion for it.
Yes. Yeah. I'd like to think I did, but I also realized, I'm a talker. And pastry is a very different vibe than the line or, garmager or anything else. And so a lot of the pastry chefs I work for were like, can you kindly shut the hell up? Can you? Yeah. So I learned.
Yeah, the talking, it really depends on the kitchen environment. Some of these kitchens they can be a little chatty. That's just not, it's not really what I'm used to. But
what are you used to? So let's talk about your background.
Sure.
Duave is the most iconic place in Boston.
That's very kind of you to say.
It's true. Tell me everything, how you give me the 2-cent tour of Chef Chris.
Yeah. So, you mentioned Duave, and that's sort of that's the restaurant I dreamt about since I was a teenager. And, to sort of make that happen and now have it be in its 15th year, it turns 15 on September 1st. It's a long time for a restaurant.
That's a very long time. That's a lifetime.
Yeah. And, it hasn't been 15 years in a straight line. We dealt with a pandemic and some other interesting challenges. But, my passion for food started really young. It started in where most people find themselves starting, which is in a dish pit. I had a neighbor who owned a seafood restaurant up in Peabody, Massachusetts, where I grew up, called Ocean Delight. Ooh. And I made $5 an hour cash.
Wow!
And that was a big deal back then.
I was going to say my wow was not meant sarcasm.
No, it was a big deal.
Yeah,
it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And growing up in the '90s, both my parents worked very hard, but times were different then. People didn't really have money, and that $5 an hour got me everything that I needed. That's for sure. Which my needs were rather simple then. So we're talking like basketball cards, sneakers, actually the first thing I bought in 7th grade that I remember taking my paycheck to buy was, all my childhood, I had 2 younger sisters.
Okay.
When we went back to school shopping, my father had $100 for each kid for school clothes for the year.
Oh,
okay.
My God.
So, there was a lot of windbreakers. There was never jeans because jeans were way more expensive. Sweatpants. You had 3 pairs of sweatpants for 1 pair of jeans. So we went to TJ Maxx, Marshalls, places like that.
I still love going to those places.
But all my windbreakers had either 2 stripes or 4 stripes. All of them. But I wanted 3 stripes. So and at the time I was a big fan of the Fab Five that played basketball at Michigan.
Yes.
So my first purchase for $45 was a pair of 3-stripe Adidas pants, which by the way I kept and wore because back then you bought them way too big until I was 38.
So not too far off.
Yep. So that pair of pants lasted until I sadly got bleach on it.
Oh.
But yeah, it was $45. So at $5 an hour, that was 9 hours worth of scrubbing pots and pans and cleaning grease traps and doing all those things.
Oh, the grease trap.
And I then had my Adidas yellow stripe on blue, like Michigan. Stripe
with the 3. Oh my goodness, with Michigan. So I went to University of Illinois, actually.
Okay.
So it is kind of, the Big Ten and all of that. But I mean, I wasn't at the time. I wasn't into the sports at that point.
Sure.
I was into the food. Like I had a similar, like you said, like I always loved to bake. I would come home. Actually, I liked to cook too, but I just wasn't as good at it.
Yeah.
And I really liked, pastry's pretty meticulous.
Yeah.
And it's like the one area of my life where I could be very type A with ADHD, really get through it. And I loved it. So I went to food science, human nutrition for Illinois. Sure. And then I went to California culinary, which I know you went to CIA.
I did.
Which is not the CIA. It
unfortunately.
I almost said the Culinary Institute of America. You went, because there's one in Hyde Park, and then there's one in Greystone and Napa.
Yeah, correct.
That's continuing ed, I think. That one might be.
I'm not sure what it is today. I think there's actually a few different CIA campuses now, but at the time it was, I think that's what the structure was back in 2002.
How'd you choose that over like Johnson & Wales or CCA?
Yeah, so I was sort of, so I had my high school culinary teacher,
right.
Which I took, home economics, stuff like that in middle school, but my high school teacher, Mike Levin, he went to CIA, and he was like the Chris Coombs steering committee in high school.
I love him. That's wonderful.
And there was, the early on steering committee was great because it put me, out of school early, which, I never really did well with school just because I couldn't focus on the homework. I did really well on the testing, but just getting the homework done, I'd rather work and make money. So, I worked all through high school at a place called Sylvan Street Grill up in Peabody, Massachusetts. Had a great mentor there, Manny Paula. But my culinary chef through the Pro Star program, which was like an educational program, still exists today through the Mass Restaurant Association. Basically, I got out of school early, went to work, made some money, but my chef in high school went to CIA. So when it was time for college, I only applied to one school. I only applied to CIA. Wow. And my parents thought I was crazy. I was like, look, I'll either get into CIA or I won't go to college and I'll just work my way through kitchens and learn. Yeah. Well, there's two paths to do it. And I don't know that things would have necessarily ended up the way they did had I not gone. I'm very grateful for my education. But, it's really weird when I think back to high school and I had this dying passion to cook and pretty much do nothing else. But I had all these weird signals that happened. So I couldn't pay attention in a classroom at all. Yep. I couldn't do homework, or I could, but it was just so painful to do. And I think I graduated high school with a 2.8. It was nothing impressive. Judgment. But then I sat down and took the SATs. And you don't even need SATs to go to culinary school. Right. At least you didn't then. I got a 1420. I got almost a perfect score in math.
Holy shit!
Yeah, and out of 1600 at the time. So I was like, I guess if the pressure's on, I can make things happen. And that was a good early sign.
I was going to say that's a really good early sign for a kitchen. Excelling under pressure and not getting, as an event planner too. It's kind of when I shine, and you can't let it get to you. You have to just. I used to tell my brides, you can look at big picture once. Yeah. And then you have to break it down into these manageable little pieces so that it doesn't feel too big, so you don't get overwhelmed. And so you can also find joy in it. So it's you love to do it, but we all know that it gets very stressful. Right. Clients are demanding and the world's demanding, but it is very cool. I love that you only applied to one, and it's funny, we're so opposite. I did well in school and shitty on the SATs. Mm-hmm. I applied to 8 schools because I didn't think I was going to get into any of them. And
I guess I go to culinary school. I know,
right? Yeah. Well, my mom wouldn't let me go there first. It's funny. She said, you need to have a 4-year first. And I really pushed back, and I was annoyed. And I'm grateful because my path didn't turn out that way. I always thought I wanted to do pastry, and my epiphany happened in the middle of the program, and I said, I'll figure it out. I'm going to finish this. Right. Just so,
Well, I only have an associate's degree.
Right.
And
don't say only, because I have to tell you.
But there are times that I now wish that I had an MBA. And as much as, look, I don't think I would have gotten through the classes. So as much as I
Right.
dance with this, I certainly could have gone to Cornell after
Yes, of
CIA.
course.
I mean, I had the options, but I just couldn't wait to get out there and cook.
I get it.
So leaving college with a degree at 19 and being out in the workforce,
let's go do this.
Yeah, it's like it was time to make money. No more Perkins loans or whatever amount of debt I had to pile on to go to culinary school, which by the way is a lot less debt than what these kids come out with today.
I can't. I mean,
but I borrowed the whole thing and paid it back 7 years after graduation.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
And then, so I mean, I obviously read your Wikipedia. He's pretty cool. But I did my due diligence, but as somebody who is an appreciation for what I would say the industry.
Sure.
And you're open about your ADHD. When I had my blog called Bitchless Bride, and then I had a podcast and all that fun stuff, my very first article was called The Industry. And really it was about, I compared us to addicts, okay? And because in my head, we use. And our use, though, is being on the floor, being in the kitchen, schmoozing with clients, making a great dish, and never really having to be it's not a desk job. It's not, I've had a few of those and I'm really shitty at them, and I really tried to get out of this industry because it's hard. It's a lot of work. But kind of once you get the bug, you cannot get out. I tried on recruiting for a couple of years. Where are my skills going to be transferable? And then I was like, well, this is boring. So I went right back to the industry. I'm like, please take me back. I'm sorry I ever cheated on you. But I just needed to make sure. But it was hard, after I had kids. I was an event planner and I didn't want to give every waking moment to the industry. How do you balance?
Yeah. So
when do you even?
Look, I mean, it's this industry's tough, and the people who do the best are the ones who choose to not have a life. And I made that choice for a lot of years. Yep. A lot. I mean, I had a 10-year period where I don't think I worked a single week less than 85 hours for 10 years straight. But that's what it took to build a company.
Yes. No, of course.
Right? And your body starts to give you signs of hey, this isn't good for you, right? And there's just a lot of chefs and a lot of industry people that fall into these traps, right? Whether it's the drinking or the drugs or, everybody. Look, what I've found in this industry, right, is we are a vice-driven industry.
Yes.
And for me, my vice has been to fall back on fitness, right? Because, I spent, I had a pretty big article about this in the Wall Street Journal, but I spent from, 9 or 10 years old till 28 taking Adderall every day. I'd wake up, I'd have my breakfast, I'd have my coffee, I'd have my Adderall, and then I'd be completely done eating for the day.
Yes,
right, done, because I couldn't.
Because you couldn't.
I could taste things, but I couldn't eat. And then, I'd take my first dose at 8 or 9 in the morning, go to work, and I'd take my second dose between 2:30 and 3:30, depending on if it was a weekday or weekend and how late the restaurant was going to be busy till. And then I'd work till 11, 12 o'clock at night. And then the Adderall would run out, and I would be starving, right? And when I was 26 years old, so I built Duave when I was 25. I opened it when I was 26.
Wow.
And when I was
We're circling back on that, by the way.
Yeah,
I need to know
we
all the details.
We will. And when I was 26, I'm 6'1". Right now I weigh 212 pounds.
Okay.
Adderall version of Chris Coombs weighed 157 pounds at 6'1". The pictures are out there, right? And it just got to a place where, probably in I think year 3 of I was 28, 29 years old. It just changed the way it was working in my body, and my who will always be my chef, my right hand, Chef Adrian Wright, one of my chefs who was on Top Chef and amazing, and we worked together for 10 years. She chefs privately down in Puerto Rico now. She just looked me in the face one day and she's like, "You can't take this stuff anymore.
No, you're done.
You're done. It's gonna kill you." And I was like, "The restaurant's gonna go down." And she's like, "We are gonna get through this, but you're done taking that."
Good
and
for
I was
her.
like, "All right, what's the plan, right?"
We only
and it was
need
just
one of those too.
Yeah, and it was just managing diet,
Yes.
managing exercise, realizing it's weird. The Adderall, like, in a way, can make you, like, superhuman.
Oh.
Like, I could get a superhuman amount of work done.
I understand.
And, like, I built a pretty good sized company with Adderall over time. And look, I mean, neither here nor there. I made a decision at that point with the help of my team that was surrounding me to be like, because it got to a point where I was like, it was just making me so anxious. I was so thin. I couldn't eat.
And that's the joy in it, right? You're making all this amazing food and you can taste, like you said, but you can't eat.
Yeah, but the tasting thing was like, there was no joy in it. It was it was just like mechanical at that point. It was like, I knew I had a better palate around than most people. And I knew, also it's like starving all the time. Yeah. So it's easy to have a great palate when you're so hungry. So, you kind of get into this, I just got into this rhythm where, I have friends that had a blast in their 20s. I did nothing. I mean, I went on like a couple vacations here and there. I spent it just like cooking and chasing. And look, a lot of good things came out of that. But, I'm going to be 41 here next month. And it's just not, I just can't live that way anymore. So I really prioritize a little more balance now, right?
Good
But it's easier to prioritize balance when you have things on a stable footing. Like, for example, opening Bosse, right? Yes. I mean, talk about like a massive project.
For those people who don't know, say you're watching or listening to this and you're not local. Yeah. So what is Bosse?
Yeah, so Bosse was sort of like my newest idea / concept. I've been wanting to get into sports and fitness for many years. It's always been one of my passions.
Mine here too.
But every single time I do a business plan for like a gym that had a salad and protein smoothie bar attached to it, anytime I did a pro forma, the business plan was like horrific. I was like, wait a minute, I can sit here all the time. It'll make no money. Yep. And like, I just couldn't do it. And then along came pickleball. Right? Pickleball. So the first time that now, by the way, I have no previous racket sport experience, but I'm fairly athletic.
Yeah. You can pick it up.
Yeah. So the first time I pick up a pickleball paddle, I'm looking around in the place I was at. Everyone around me was boozing and eating shitty food.
Yes.
And I was like, wait a minute.
We could do better.
I was like, I can get people to booze and I can make them have delicious food. And there might be something to this because everyone's excited about it, and I just had an awesome time playing. But then I was thinking, like, if I'm going to do this, I have to like do it big and blow it out, right? So part of it was like getting the right partner. My business partner is a former tennis pro, DJ Bosse. He was like the #1 ranked junior in the world from South Africa. So he, and he had a huge fitness facility in Sudbury for years. 20 years.
I've been there.
One of the most elite clubs in the country. So look, he had a brand of fitness that was, like very refined, and I had a brand of cuisine, and we came together and, we took an old department store. We took an old Neiman Marcus here in Natick and put 21 pickleball courts on it, 4 different food concepts, darts, golf simulators, a gym, hammam, cold plunge, just an all-in-one huge experience around pickleball.
You actually never have to leave. Like, I don't want to leave. I went there.
It's a fun place. Yeah,
it's so fun.
It's a fun place.
I have not played pickleball there. One of my stepsister and her husband actually created. They have a giant basement, and but they created a whole pickleball court in their basement, and it got to the point where I was a gymnast, so I didn't do racket or anything either. But I picked up that paddle, and something changed in me. And my 9-year-old, he's like, "Mom, let's play." I kicked his ass, and I did not feel bad about it. And he looked at me like, "What just happened?" I said, "I don't need to let you win. You don't get to win all the time." But it was so fun.
It's fun, and the fun part about pickleball, and there's like definitely some like tennis people that are very anti pickleball, and that's fine for them if they don't like fun.
I mean, I get it.
I get it too. But here's the thing, right? Pickleball does a couple things, right? First off, it's probably the only sport that I know of where you can get like multiple generations in a family out on the court together. That's so like fair. I have seen kids with their parents, with their grandparents, and their great grandparents, like 3 or 4 generations on a court together, that is so cool. Having fun.
Yes.
Right? And I think that's not possible anywhere else. But what I derive from pickleball, and I'm pretty good at it now, is it brings back all those feelings of playing sports that I had when I was a kid that I just don't remember having in the last 20 years. Like,
That's
I
fair.
remember playing basketball and soccer, and like, yeah, maybe I was never that good at it.
Right.
But when you made a great play or a great shot,
Yeah,
or
there was cheering.
you felt awesome
You felt
about
great.
it. And pickleball, number one, the barrier to entry is pretty low.
Yes.
And like, number two, you're going to get lucky and make a good shot
Exactly,
sometimes, right? And who doesn't like to feel good? So,
Yes.
so anyway, kind of what I was saying is that, I can work my tail off in spurts. And when we were building Bosse, right, you're talking about a place that's 25 times the size of Duave, right? So that undertaking, just
Yes.
from like dealing with the architects, getting it designed, laying it out, keeping a plan in my
Oh
head
my
that
God.
was that big, building a business plan that big. For me, that was like the next step, the next challenge.
so cool.
Because, I'd done, 4 restaurants and knock on wood, they've all been successful, with the exception, but I guess it's also kind of how you look at it, because the pandemic also could have put all of them out of business forever if the government didn't bail us out. So although I've been fortunate to have had those restaurants for such a long time, there's a really thin line in this industry. Like, margins are not great.
No.
Things get more expensive, like daily now, right?
Yes, they do.
Labor's more expensive, right? You used to be able to get like affordable labor. Now everyone needs to make, I don't even know, but again, which is great, right?
Because the world's getting more expensive. So
right, everything,
yes.
right? There's no cheap rent.
No.
There's no cheap food.
Especially in Boston.
Everything's expensive now, right?
Yes,
so
I agree.
I think what's interesting is that there's been this tremendous evolution in our industry from like when you and I first started working in kitchens.
Yep.
The only thing constant in life has changed, but like our business has changed drastically.
Huge.
Drastically.
Chefs are nice now.
Well, chefs are better actors now, because the difference is, so I actually have to dispute this.
Prove me wrong, please.
I think most chefs in general, there's something a little bit wrong with them. Because there has to be. Because there's no other compelling reason to do this unless there's something a little bit wrong.
Yeah, there's something like a little off. And maybe, maybe I didn't find my off button. Maybe I was like, I'm too nice.
Every great chef I've ever worked for or worked with has had something wrong with them.
Yes.
And I won't divulge who and what, but I've had a lot of time to think about this.
We worked in some overlapping places, so I understand. Although I have to say, and I will go on record, the one chef, and I don't know if you know him, from Capitol Grill, it used to be on Newbury Street in Boston, which is now on Boylston Street, Chef Dave Cox, C-O-X, I love him. We were interns together. He got out of Johnson & Wales. I was still at Illinois, but I was getting 4 credits. I got paid $8.50 an hour, I will have you say.
Yeah, big money.
And I got 4 college credits. But this is when I should have known I needed to be a writer and a podcaster, because I wrote to my teacher about what I was doing, and she said towards the end, she's like, your writing style and the way that you made it, and I was very much myself. Like, I would swear in my things to her, because we were in the kitchen. It wasn't going to be gosh darn it. It was going to be like fucking A, like what's going on? Everyone's yelling at each other and it's tense and whatever. She said she would save mine for the very last one to read of all of us, because it was most fun. But Dave had just gotten out of Johnson & Wales. He was awesome. He was not green, but green to like the grind.
Sure.
And he is now executive chef, managing director at the Boston location, and he's still there, and he's one of the nicest guys. To this day, I can walk in, hugs, sends me out food, does other things, and he's literally, I think that he is the anomaly. He's the only person. Dave, I don't even know if you're gonna watch this, but no, he literally is.
I'm sure there are exceptions. But I'm with you.
I've met and worked with enough chefs who, there was several things wrong with them, maybe.
Yeah, but also now I think our industry's cleaned up a lot, because
that is fair.
The folks that didn't know how to clean up have been outed, right?
Yeah,
I mean, if you look at, and by the way, there are a lot of people who speak ill of her. I personally won't do it, but if you look at what happened to Barbara Lynch,
I'm heartbroken.
Look, people. There's a lot of people,
Yes.
and I'll probably catch guff for even saying this, but they want to give Barbara all the guff.
I know.
But they don't want to give her any credit.
No,
she's
iconic.
turned out so many chefs that are making your food in the city of Boston today.
Oh my God, I was obsessed.
So many.
I was obsessed. Heartbroken.
And look, it's sad to see a downfall like that.
Yes.
This stuff happens, right? But did stuff like that happen in her kitchen 20 years ago? Probably. But the difference is no one was recording it. No one had iPhones. I mean, I think about, years of my career where there's not even a picture of me in existence working this place. It's because who had a camera?
Yeah. And who wanted to pose? And who wanted to, you know what I mean?
Or it was just just like, if you were in a good restaurant back then, like, and you weren't treated well, it didn't matter. There was 10 other people lined up to have your opportunity, right? So it's like, you don't want to handle that abuse? Guess what? There's 20 other cooks that want your job, that would love to work here. They'd be privileged to. Now, there's a restaurant on every corner. Every developer needs a restaurant. There's plenty of places to work. The power has really gone to the employees, and I think like the industry is cleaned up. The industry cleaning up partially, in a way, it's better for the long-term sustainability of it.
And I agree with that.
But this is again another one of those like drastic changes in like there was this playbook when we were younger about like this is what it takes to be the best, right? And I feel like for most of my career, like most of the kitchens I worked in before they were my own, I was never the best chef in the kitchen, never. But I was willing to work harder than anyone else around me, and I asked so many questions.
So important.
And now it's so interesting. Like you used to have to ask questions to get chefs to teach you techniques or recipes, or just to get their opinion on food. Now. I have to tell you this ChatGPT thing. I was waiting to see if this is going to come up. You don't even need me anymore. Anything you want to learn, it's on Google, but like ChatGPT is is a good cook. Oh, like I have. All right, so there's like some
title of our podcast.
Yeah, there's some topics that I consider myself to be advanced in when it comes to food.
Sure.
And I have like drilled down on ChatGPT, and I've only caught it making mistakes like 3 times.
Shut up.
Yeah, but then the thing is that it acknowledges the mistake when I tell it, and then it corrects itself so that no one else gets the mistake. So like, I'll give you an example, right? So I was talking with ChatGPT, my best friend, about...
Have you given it a name, just Chat?
No, it's just ChatGPT. I'm not like a namer person. I'm not... Yeah, it's like...
You didn't name your cars and stuff?
No, it's not really my thing. It's hard enough to name restaurants. I didn't even know how to do that. I was talking to it about roasting a chicken. Because so poultry is kind of my thing. So like whether it's like ducks or chickens or like poultry, and I don't know, I may have been poultry in a previous life if that's a thing, but
I was a cat.
I feel really connected to poultry. So one day I decided to have like an extensive conversation about roasting a chicken. Just because I was like, okay, like there's no way that AI knows more about chickens and ducks than I know. So we're having this like extensive conversation, and I was talking about like brining versus dry rubbing versus this versus that, right? So we're like building a recipe together, which like, by the way, if you've ever tried to build a recipe or a menu or any of these things with like ChatGPT, like my chefs and I, we used to do these jam sessions, and like we'd sit around and like talk about food and talk about like different ingredients and how, not repeating them on dishes. And now you can just talk to ChatGPT and kind of do the same thing. For me, it's not the same, but it's something I've explored.
But that's fair. You want to do both, though. Right?
So what's interesting? So what's interesting is, so I'm going through all this process with ChatGPT, and like not because I need the info. It's just like I have to like validate to myself that all this work and all this studying, and I have 1,000 cookbooks and I've read them all, that all this work I put in was worth something because I'm like, well, now all of a sudden AI knows more about this than me, and why do I have all these books? Okay. So we're talking about roasting a chicken.
Okay.
Now, I won't bring up the other 2 examples because chicken's probably the best one for this podcast.
Fair enough. And I hate
cooking chicken. And we were talking about the brine, the length of the brine, the time of the brine, the salinity of the brine, and then the sweetness in the brine.
Ooh, okay. Key.
So, because I believe like most food, like if you've read any of the old like molecular gastronomy stuff or anything like modernist leaning, everything in cooking is about like time and ratios and percentages.
Yes.
Everything. So like whether you want it to be scientific or not, it all can be brought back to science.
Hence the math part on your SATs.
Hence the math part, right? So we're talking about this brine on this roasted chicken, and I knew that the ChatGPT was like, you got to roast this chicken at 425. And I was like, hey, if you roast that chicken at 425, the sugar content in it will burn.
Yes.
And ChatGPT was like, oh, you're absolutely right. You need to cook that chicken at 375 because of the sugar content. And it was like a great moment for me.
Did you high five?
No, I was just like, all right, there is still a use case for me in this world, because
of course.
Look, we are in this, like, if we want to talk about technology, we're in this like parabolic moment with AI.
Yes, we are.
And many of our jobs and functions are about to be replaced. Like, I think about a lot of these consultants I know, like people who are like consultants on restaurants or consultants on business or this, that, and the other thing. Anything they're telling you, like AI can tell you.
I was going to say AI.
You can take that same data, feed it in, and save yourself whatever their hourly rate is. So there are so many people whose jobs are about to get displaced. And I was personally scared, like, hey, what's my utility anymore? If somebody can just write a menu and, if AI can write a menu and kick out the recipes, then what good am I?
Yeah, but your execution, I've had your food. So it's like, you're right. Anyone can spit out a recipe, anyone can do it, but I will tell you, I can read that same recipe, chef, and I will not cook it the way you can. First of all, I fucking hate cooking chicken. I love eating it, don't get me wrong. I eat everything, okay? But I hate cooking it. It grosses me out, like really? Oh my God, it's just the texture. Also, after having babies, for some reason, I had a real aversion to poultry while I was pregnant, and every now and again...
Not a chicken girly.
Oh my God, I was like, but like... Also grew up in the Midwest. Love me some fried chicken. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not anti it. I just don't like to cook with it. Then I get paranoid. Did it touch the counter? Like,
What's your favorite thing to eat?
Sugar. Anything pastry. I do love sugar. Well, it's funny. As I've gotten older, like you said, like you went off your Adderall. You did certain things because you felt your body change. I feel like there's always like this 7-year reset, right? So whether it's pregnancy, hormones, I'm almost fucking 48, right? And I don't like sugar as much as I used to, but cake, there's something about cake, I hate this word, MOIST, cake with the most delicious icing. I developed a relationship, I think she's going to come on the show actually, with Paula over at Icing on the Cake, probably 25 years ago when I worked at the Colonnade Hotel in 2002. And she's done all my kids' birthday cakes, mine, my family, and also just pulled her into the hotels I was working with. And I love her so much because she has the ratio, she has the perfect, it's the cakes. I've never had a bad cake from her. And the frosting is so good. And it's, how sometimes beautiful cakes taste like absolute garbage and taste like shit. Like, you can see there, I won't mention names, but there's some very fancy cake bakers around here who sometimes just hit it. Like, and I love Jenny of Jenny Cakes. Like, love her so much. I love Paula. I have my faves. But I will tell you that, like, that is my favorite thing to eat. It is and I love my coffee. But on the flip side, this is such basic bitchery. I don't
think it's basic. I think you like what you like.
Yes.
Right? I mean, I tell myself that I like things because they make my body feel a certain way.
Well, of course.
And I tell myself that things that make my body feel a different way, that they're poison.
Correct. Well,
right? So for me, like, sugar makes me crazy, so I don't eat it, right?
Yes.
So I'm like, oh, cake, how wonderful. But I can't put it in my body.
You just watched how much creamer I put in. My soy vanilla cream, and he's like, I think he had heart palps, and he was going to, like, start.
Yeah, no, it's just, again, I love to talk to people about flavor.
Yes.
Right? I think what's interesting when you're a chef is trying to understand how to cook for everyone.
Yeah, that's hard.
Right?
Yes.
And in fine dining restaurants, like, people put this, like, trust in the chef that's like, all right, let's see what you can do.
Drum roll,
blow
please.
Me away.
Yeah. That's very true.
But people perceive taste differently, right? And that's from food memories. Yep. That's from genetics play a part in that. Huge. And then also how many, like, papillae you have on your tongue. People perceive things differently. So to try and paint with one brush for everyone, people who think food's salty all the time, or people who think it's too spicy, or it's really it's really interesting. It's one of the things that keeps food and cooking exciting.
It is so funny because the other thing where we went to Cannes in August, and I've always loved truffle. I loved truffle when it was like 2002 or 2004 when it first started, I think, coming over to the U.S. Such a unique, cool flavor. So, like, yes, I love cake and I love sweets for the most part. It has, as I've gotten older, and like you said, I've always been into fitness. I've always, no matter my weight, no matter, whether I'm heavier or whether I'm thinner, whatever the fuck it is, I've always needed it. I need it mentally. I need it, sometimes my husband will look at me like, have you worked out in a day or two? I'm like, no, he's like, you're not being nice. Go. I'm like, oh, you're right. I gotta go. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But for food though, when we were in Cannes, I have to say there was a truffle pizza that we ate at a very fancy, exquisite restaurant that my 9-year-old son was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever tasted. It was like €50 maybe.
Yeah.
And it was
South France is expensive.
Holy, yeah. That I have to tell you.
Expensive place, especially in the summer.
And it was, you know what? I would go back in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Go explore other places, obviously. Whereas then when we were in Denmark, I mean, the food's totally different too. Like I love eating our way around and finding like the local places that like you're not going to read about in the magazines and like what are the locals eating? What's special to them? And I love that you're obsessed with the taste. And you're right, like different palates. What you find salty or what you can't have all my sugar, and you can tell she working.
No, it's a really interesting dynamic of
how do you balance it with your like with the general public, essentially with Gen Pop. How do you handle that? I mean, you're right, because there's a huge trust.
Chefs. What's interesting, my entire career and just kind of my thesis is I'm going to do what I believe in doing.
Correct.
And I hope that the people who appreciate that will come, because you're not going to please everyone. I mean, I'm sure, all the accolades, whatever.
Yeah.
There are people who will tell you they don't like my French restaurant, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. As long as that there's enough people who do like it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. And that's a really hard thing as a chef, is that like these chef egos can get so big.
Yes.
And it's, think about it. I think about this, like, imagine if I showed up to your job, right? Imagine if I came in here and I'm just like, you're not a very good podcaster.
You'd be like, bye.
No, these people, it's really interesting. They come into restaurants, and there are people who, restaurants are such a weird place. Like, imagine if you and I went into Nordstrom and like we wanted something for free. They'd be like, "Get out of here! What are you talking about, free?"
Calling the police.
But people go to restaurants and they want like little bites, or they want a drink, or they want. And I don't know how this culture.
How that start? It's in.
I don't know.
Here. It's nowhere else. It's in the U.S.
It's really.
It's nowhere else.
It's bizarre, but I feel like there's people who expect like that gratis to feel appreciated.
No, cook me a good dish, give me a delicious cocktail, like
but then also the challenging part is that like everyone's a critic. Like everyone who eats thinks they're an expert on eating because they've eaten 3 times a day for their entire
That's a good way to
life.
put it.
And everyone's certainly entitled to their opinion, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I want their opinion. Well, in fact, I have to tell you, like, I can tell you that I have read like every single review for all of my restaurants obsessively for, I don't know, whatever, almost 20 years now. Yeah. And I can tell you that there have been so few times that I've learned anything from it, but it's like this routine of like, well, I have to read this or I might
be missing something.
What if I'm missing something?
Well, and it's funny because I can completely relate. Like, hotels, it was one of the only places where you could walk in and expect someone to show you the space. Like, do I walk into my dentist and be like, can you just clean my teeth? I'm in the area. Can you clean my teeth? And you're like, what the fuck? Like, what is actually happening right now? I don't understand. And I didn't believe that the client was always right. I started Bitchless Bride because it wasn't because I was mad. I mean, I do believe our industry, the bridal industry, has been glorified and a bit broken. And also, if it's the best day of your life, then what are you saying about the rest of your life with this person? Anyway, but it was like, but you're getting all worked up over Shivari chairs and filet when you should be like, your partner sucks. Like,
but you know what's weird? There's just a lot of people out there who are really unkind.
Yes.
And I've observed the humans and how they behave in like a public environment consuming food and beverages.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that there are like people, they're very strange, but they come out to eat to like have a confrontation in public.
Oh.
And it's very strange. There are people who come out to eat to like fight with their wife in public. There are people who come out that are just angry, miserable people that want to be confrontational with like
anyone,
the server and then the manager and
whoever,
and
else.
That's like their thing.
That is fair. I've observed the humans too. That is
the humans,
and it's so. I mean, I have to say, and this is the industry where we take it and we take the most abuse from it, and I honestly, that's kind of why I didn't even mean to get out. I really didn't. I was planning events. I was doing great, but I really like to write and I really like to chat and I really like the people aspect. I like the kind, fun people where I met you and I'm like, oh my God, you are so much fun. Like we like. Matt and we're
hit it off quick.
Right. It was so quick because we're like cut from the same cloth. Like also I think people who work hard and have drive, and also I know what you've been through without knowing, not your personal story until now, which I'm learning, which I love. But it's also like, you've also know that I've paid my dues and worked.
What's the craziest thing that ever happened to you in a kitchen?
Which one? No, I feel like
you can give me like 3, but what's the like one thing off the cuff that like because like by the way, like a lot of wild shit used to happen in kitchens.
God.
A lot.
When I was working at we'll just say a place in pastry, and one of the cakes fell, and the chef stomped his foot. Fuck. And the crazy thing was, it wasn't a wedding cake. It wasn't a cake for like a special occasion, like someone's event. It was going in a fucking buffet, right? And it wasn't and there was like 14 other cakes. Yeah. And he made it seem like we had dropped a wedding cake. And I think I was young enough. I was interning, so that was one of them. And I had to go in the walk-in to go like laugh because I was like, I thought it was really funny that this grown-ass man, and I also wasn't in tune yet to the kitchen. Yeah. So I thought it was funny that he was like, this grown-ass man is having a fit instead of taking a step back and going, there's like 14 other cakes. We are a well-stocked kitchen. It wasn't the end of the world. Yeah. So a grown-ass man having a temper tantrum and when I was 19. And then I'd say just on a constant, there was a place I worked where the chef would mix the bok chablis and like come back where I was doing like either garmager or shucking oysters or doing something, and and he would mix it with like, remember the soda gun? And it was like the high C. He would take the chablis shit that you guys cook with to make your scampies and your shit, and he would mix it with the high C and just perpetually waste it. Like, I mean,
there's a lot of drugs and alcohol in a lot of these.
How did you come through unscathed? Did you?
You know what's yes. So I have. I've never put a drug in my body.
Me neither.
Ever.
I've smoked some pot. I do enjoy. I do. I mean, but that's also like.
I had friends who like tried to smoke me up, and I think when they were trying it, like the Adderall. No, the Adderall is just like way stronger. It's like no weed is gonna calm this Adderall. Like nice try. So that was probably 3 or 4 times. Unscathed. I've never had a drinking problem. I have to tell you, I've just saw from a really young age, like some really horrific shit.
Yes.
Okay. So I think when I was 13 or 14, so the neighbor who gave me my first shot.
Okay.
I don't think I'll get sued for saying this. I'm going for it. Okay.
Is the restaurant still there?
No, it's gone. But I really like him. He still lives across the street from my parents. Great guy. He used to give me a ride home. So again, like working at a restaurant till 11 o'clock at night at 13, 14 years old.
That's a big job.
It was a big job, right? He'd give me a ride home. And I remember he had this van, like it looked like a sketch van, but sketch van because that was where, he brought moved all the food around, went to market, whatever.
Legit needed it.
Okay, but he would have a bottle of Sky vodka. Okay. And while we were driving home, would drink out of the bottle of vodka to the face while we were driving home, and I remember seeing these things. Also, I won't mention names, but there was a chef that I worked for, as a teenager, and he, definitely, this was interesting. So one of the reasons that I learned a lot of the executive functioning, when I was at Sylvan Street Grill, it was me, the chef, and then it was a family of 35 Mexicans, maybe 40 Mexicans. And it was like cousins and brothers, and it was a fun kitchen. But the chef was like unhinged as shit. So, and by the way, his life was like spiraling. So he, I think he was married at the time. There was one point I think he had like, and again, it was a long time ago, but he had multiple women pregnant at the same time and couldn't do,
Sounds about right.
Right. So like, there's just, you see the drugs, the alcohol, what it leads to, all stuff I didn't want any part of.
No, I don't blame you.
And then, I saw some examples of people who died from drugs, and I didn't want to die.
Oh,
that's bad.
That's so bad. Human dying.
Yeah. So I generally was able to keep it clean.
Good.
All throughout. But again, it was only because there were so many people when I was young. Yeah. And naive, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't want to be like that."
Right? I'm judging you, but it worked.
I was just like, "I don't. Nope. That's not for me. No. Your life looks awful.
You're terrible,
and I would prefer to not have an awful life."
Oh my god! When I was in culinary school in San Francisco, every day was like an after-school special. Like, do you remember those, or where it'd be like the more you know?
No, I mean the things.
Yes, the things
I will put this all in a book one day.
Yes,
well, I will. But the things that I have seen and encountered, and look, I'll give you a brief story. So
what's the worst thing you've seen?
Yeah. So the summer after I graduated culinary school, I went out to a reshaped property and I worked there for a summer, and I was right out of culinary school. Like, I could cook and I was fast, but I was 19. Yeah. I was making $8 3/4 an hour. And there was a sous chef that just didn't like me. Why did he not like me? He was a drunk. And I had some bad habits at the time. Okay.
You wiped your hands on your apron?
No, it wasn't that. My bad habit that used to drive him nuts, and honestly would drive me nuts if one of my cooks did that to me today, is I used to put my side towel down.
Oh.
So your side towel, when you're a decent line cook, is either in your hand because your hand is on a pan, or it's under your arm, in between your rib cage and your tricep. Okay. I used to put my towel down to plate up. Instead of wedging it and plating, I'd put it down, I'd leave it here, I'd leave it there. So the Swedish sous chef was tired of my shit. And the game first started that every time it would be slammed in service, every time I put my towel down, he'd throw the towel different places. So then I'd have no towel because you only got so many towels. So he'd throw my towel and I'd be like, "Where's my towel?" I'd be in the weeds. I'd have things that were going to burn, but I couldn't burn things because it was a very nice restaurant. And I'd go chase my towel.
Oh, my God.
And that's how it started. And I think I just was look, when I was younger, I was a very irritating person. I was a very irritating person.
Hey, at least you can say that, know that.
But I was
learn from it.
But I was a good cook. Yeah. I just couldn't. Well, honestly, I just couldn't shut the fuck up.
I think that was in a kitchen.
Yeah,
and that's hard.
Yeah,
I know that.
So the sous chef, and I'm trying so hard not to say his name, but I won't. He used to do this fun thing with a Coon spoon. You know what a Coon spoon is, first off?
No.
From Grey Coon. So there are these really nice plating spoons. You get them from JP Prince. They used to be $6 each. Now they're $30. But they're the most perfect plating spoon if you like to plate.
Like a Crenelle or
No, you wouldn't Crenelle with them. It's more just if you have a set, a succotash, or you want to do drop and drags, or saucing work. It's just the perfectly shaped chef spoon. So anyway, it was a very hot kitchen. I was always sweaty. And Henry used to do this thing where he'd take his Coon spoon and he'd put it on the flat top. Right? And he'd put it on the flat top, and when you would screw up... Now, okay, so I want to talk about the station.
God.
So remember how I was hey, I'm pretty good with poultry?
Yeah.
So this restaurant used to make us, and I don't know that I believe in this or that it makes sense, but we would run a grill on low, and we would grill duck breasts. Now, duck breasts have a ton of fat on them.
Yeah.
Grills flare up very easily, and you would grill this duck, but you weren't supposed to get any black on the skin, or that meant it was burnt. But grilling a duck, you have to constantly keep it moving, all the time, or burns. And this place was selling a lot of ducks. Okay, so the ducks were hard, but I was doing okay with it. But anyway, the sous chef used to heat up the Coon spoon, and then you'd be sweaty, and he'd touch you with it. But you had sweat on you. So it would just make a sound, but it was just the sweat going off. You wouldn't get burnt, but it would kind of shock you, right? And again, things like this don't generally happen in kitchens today. But there was again, I was an irritating cook. I was a decent cook, but I was irritating. So this progressed from so basically what happened was one time he heated it really good, and there's a few times that like I'd be really I sweat quite a bit.
Same.
So like my face would be in sweat, my neck would be in sweat, like everything would be in sweat. So there was a couple times that he'd like do it on my neck with the spoon, and like, and that didn't really, it's shocking, but like it would never burn you, right?
Oh my God.
So until there was this one time where he had heated it up and I turned into it, and I think I still have the mark on my neck. You can probably see it.
I did see it. Holy shit.
So then it like seared my neck, and I like almost passed out.
Oh my God.
Almost passed
During
out.
service too.
Well, yeah, because I had like a blister on my neck from this spoon that the guy heated up, and I was like, you know what, it's probably no, but that was it. I was like, all right, it's probably time to like not work here.
Maybe I'm done here
anymore.
Well, isn't that an interesting thing? And I want to circle back.
But you know what's really weird? At the time,
it felt
there were
normal.
so many things in the kitchen
that
I was like, this is the process that I must go through to become a good chef.
Yeah, well, that's what we
like.
You
and
don't need to torture yourself.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think like with great pressure comes. Like you can learn pretty fast. Yes. You can become.
Well, you're forced to, right? You learn by doing.
Yeah, it's like survival mode kind of shit. But
you have to.
There were many. I actually think that the like I've always been kind of drawn to the abusive environment, right? Like that's. Yeah. It's kind of like my kink, to be like, tell me how awful I am at this. Tell me how.
Chef.
Yeah, exactly. Like tell me how this can be perfect.
I have a feeling we're different. We have different kinks in that, but yeah.
So yeah, it's like I
just like the uniform.
Fair. Look, the uniform has a whole different set of powers that's for a different podcast, but and that's a whole different set of stories too. But the truth is that like a lot of these environments that I worked in that were really tough environments. I mean, I spent a couple years down at the Inn at Little Washington for Patrick O'Connell, and it's a 3 Michelin star restaurant, and man, was there a tough group of chefs in there. And by the way, all of them like remarkably talented. Like the worst cook in that kitchen at that time is probably like a better cook than your best cooks at the best restaurants today. That's because amazing. It was just like because what you could demand out of chefs when there were so few restaurants at that level. I mean, it was Danielle, it was Jean-Georges, it was Thomas Keller with the French Laundry, it was the Inn at Little Washington. I mean, there was Charlie Trotter's. I mean, there was like
I was in San Francisco for a bit, like yes.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there was like I mean, when I was there, it was like the number 2 ranked restaurant in the world at the time. But there was a reason it was the number 2 restaurant because we were all like full on psychotic about about the food in like very abnormal ways. And if you could time travel and you took like today's team members or employees or cooks back into that environment, they just wouldn't understand. They feel like they landed on a foreign planet.
Do you watch The Bear? Can you watch The Bear?
So I cannot watch any food programming, and I don't.
Okay.
It gives me
hives.
Okay, this is what I tell. Like, if you were a doctor, would you come home and watch The Pit, or would you watch ER or Grey's Anatomy?
No, that's a fair question.
So I think a lot of these food shows that people are excited about, in retirement, maybe I'll watch them, but I just don't. They're anxiety inducing. I don't want to size up whether they're real or not.
Right.
You don't
want to think too much.
Well, many years ago, I like also did some food television here and there, and seeing the inner workings of that. I don't. When I come home, I just want to like veg.
Yes.
And I don't want to be. I don't want to be analyzing like the television and the production thereof it. So
that's fair.
So no food programming for me. I've heard that show's really good, but I will not watch it.
I listen.
Off limits for me.
I can understand
off
because
limits,
I was never like you in that. Like definitely psychotic, definitely loved the kitchen, but never got to that level because I took myself out.
Yeah.
And when there's flashbacks in The Bear when he was working, kind of sounds like some of the stuff that you might have gone through. And it's like the psychotic moments, where Kitchen Confidential was written, where that mindset.
It's a great book. I read that book when I was 16.
Right?
Yeah.
I do. I want to circle back about Barbara Lynch only because I was a huge fan. huge fan. And I have two theories. I mean, she had some bad behavior, sure, but she was also one of the first women that was Me Too'd. And I felt like almost made an example thereof. I did a few weddings over at Monton. And I met one of the maitre d's who I still keep in touch with to this day, who's a friend. But that food was like, the emotion, the thought that was put into it, she was one of the OGs, and like, I went to Number 9 Park right before it closed on my birthday. And I mean, I'm heartbroken in a way, and that feels weird to say you know what I mean?
I think that's a fair emotion. And I mean, look, as I said, I won't say anything bad about Barbara.
I'm not either. Like, I really would never.
And as a general statement, the other thing that I don't do, and this was a mistake I made when I was younger. I don't make this mistake anymore. I don't say anything bad about other chefs. You know why? Because
it's stupid.
No, because I'm running my own race. I don't really give a shit what they do. This is the most freeing thing as a chef is when you don't give a shit anymore. Right? When you're just like, because you can get so bogged down in it. Like, everybody's talking about Michelin coming to Boston and who's going to get the stars. You know? And I won't even have the conversation. That people are like, Chris, like, who's going to get Michelin stars in Boston? And my answer is, it's going to be a lot fewer restaurants than you all think it is. And I know that for a fact.
Yes.
And how do I know it? Because there's only 20 restaurants in all of New York that have Michelin stars.
And we are much smaller.
So these people that think there are 10 to 15 restaurants in Boston that are getting stars are insane.
Not happening.
Are insane. And look, I mean, I hope 50 restaurants get stars. That'd be great.
But the reality.
But it's not this is not my fight. I wish everybody the best in it. Okay, so Barbara.
Yeah.
What made Barbara successful, okay, is that she was exceptional at assembling teams.
Yes.
And I am not trying to take anything away from the success she had. But the success in this business is fleeting. Because you're only as good as your team.
That is very fair.
I can only do so much, and I can tell you from my own self-criticism that when I have a tremendous team working around me, there's a level I can get the product and experience to that I cannot bring it to if that team is not talented.
That's fair.
And Barbara had struck gold with some of the team members that she had. And by the way, struck gold with them and then was able to retain them over a very long term. Like, for example, you know, Colin Lynch, whatever. I make my own lists in my head. He's one of the best chefs in Boston. I don't care what anybody says, right?
I agree.
Some of the best chefs in Boston don't even necessarily have like the best restaurants in Boston. They're just that technically talented and they're cooking what they feel like cooking. So let's start
on their terms.
On their terms. On their terms. Another friend of mine, like William Colville, okay?
Oh my God, yes.
He has Catalyst in Cambridge, okay? I can tell you from a technical perspective that William Colville, as a chef, is probably one of the best chefs in Boston. That does not mean that Catalyst is the best restaurant in Boston, but if you remember and you have a history lesson in this, William Colville was the chef at Radius. William Colville was the chef at Aujourd'hui, right? And by the way, Aujourd'hui, when he was there, was absolutely killer. Now, by the way, that restaurant closed because of the recession in 08-09.
Yep, I remember.
And he went and did Catalyst. The restaurant was named Catalyst because the recession was a catalyst for him to open this restaurant. And by the way, that restaurant's been there 14 years now. It's busy as hell. He makes money, which by the way, this making money concept is like foreign for most chefs and restaurateurs. Okay, so Barbara.
And then I have to tell you one thing. I'm going to interject. So I know William's wife.
Sarah.
Yes.
She's lovely.
Oh my God, I love Sarah so much.
And she's also a very talented event planner too.
I know, that's how
very
I know
talented.
her. That's how I know her. And there's funny stories there. I was were you at their anniversary party? It was like,
maybe, don't remember.
Like in their backyard. I was like, it was crazy. So anyway, Radius, my husband and I were supposed to get married there when Esty Parsons was there.
Yeah.
So Esty, we gave a deposit. We were going to get married there. And then we ended up eloping to Vegas.
Okay, Cool.
But we loved it, and I love Michael Schlau.
Yeah,
and I go to
another great guy.
Oh my god, I love Alta Strada so much. It's in our hood. We that is our go-to as a family since Molly wasn't even born.
Yep.
But I do want to go back to Barbara. But I'm like, oh my god, I forgot that William was part of Radius.
Okay, but also just keep in mind, just because you're a good chef and you can make food taste good, does not mean you're a good business person.
Oh my god, we're creatives. Are you fucking kidding me?
So
we're the worst.
Many are the worst, right? Yes. So again, the Schlaus, the William Covels, the Colin Lynches, Barbara, her entire, the Gruppo.
Yep.
When I tell you that look, she drew these spectacular talents, but then she gave those talents an opportunity, and they had this like next cook up mentality in those restaurants, especially at Number 9 for so many years, where like they would give people shots very, very young to do jobs that they weren't ready to do, and they did it. And you know how they did it? Because the systems were so good and the training was so strong that it all worked out. So again, sad ending to the story.
Yes.
But what she did for the city
will
continue to impact the culinary landscape in Boston.
Oh, that makes me
for many, many years to come. Many years to come.
Oh my God. I mean, it was, and like I said, it's not even saying anything bad. I'm just sad. You know what I mean? It's like this sadness, we could go on and on about. Exactly.
I don't wish that stuff on anyone.
No,
right?
No,
and again,
it's awful.
As good as her teams were, it would have been swell if some of those people on her team
said, what the fuck are you doing?
many years ago was like, you need to get some help.
Yes, you can't do this.
And it's not an option anymore because this is, look, it only all went down recently, but this is not like a new thing.
No.
This is not a new thing.
No, not a new thing at all.
And again, I just don't believe in taking away all someone's hard work.
No, I agree.
And dedicating their life to something that's so hard. It's so hard, and so few people anywhere, not just in Boston, have ever ascended to the level that she ascended to. It's like not even possible anymore in this world.
No, you can't. No, and because everyone gets trophies for showing up. I mean, we literally I feel like we might be like part of the last generation to go through kind of some of the stuff that we went through because there's HR involved in you know what I'm saying? Like in this,
I know. Believe me,
it is. I think about some of the stuff. I mean, some of the other craziest, stuff was I slept with some of my chefs, who I worked for as a younger person. And I'm just being honest, but that's what I said. Like my joke with the uniform is only half a joke because it was, but I also learned a tremendous amount from that particular guy, and but also saw him doing cocaine in the walk-in, and I'm like, really, that's like some of the stuff, but it makes me so happy, like when I think of your story and your restaurants, and you're like, hey, I've made this choice. I watched what happened to these other people, and I took a step back from it because A, I didn't want to die. Drugs are bad. Right. And B, like, alcohol, and I love, like, this podcast is called Pour Me a Story. It can mean my Negronis. Yeah. It can mean my coffee. It can mean whatever it means. It's really just breaking bread.
But I think, well, first off, I think it's big of you to be like, oh, I slept with many of my chefs. Like, but here's the interesting, well, exactly. But this is this is actually my point when I talk about how the industry has changed.
Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore, does it?
I mean, I'm sure it does, but I think people
not the way it used to.
But I think people are like, they have to be more quiet about it now because it's like so frowned upon. But it's like, it wasn't frowned upon at all.
No,
I don't even. In some environments, that I worked in for sure. It was I would say like expected. I would say part of the whole thing, part of the way it was. And I will tell you that I don't know. Look, first off, again, the evolution of industry, right? You're talking about a chef who is like doing cocaine in the walk-in, and my new business, I think I have 128 high definition AI facial recognition cameras in there, right?
Oh my God.
But like, they're not in the bathrooms, you know what I mean? So like, it's like, things are going to happen where people want them to happen. But, I think what you said there's a lot of people who would be like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that. But like, no, everybody used to do that shit. And now it's less so, but like, that's again, that's like that evolution, like you said, that the HR component of
it's real now. It's like people pay attention to it.
It's very real.
And you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, I'm not super proud of some of the stuff I did, truly, but I'm not super ashamed of it either. You know what I mean? And
you shouldn't be.
It made me never, it made me very aware. And it's funny, the guy I slept with who was doing cocaine actually got out of the industry and got help and sent the sous chef at the time, the sous pastry chef, a letter from the 12 steps. And it was like a very interesting metamorphosis that he had. So it's like we all live and we all learn. But he was also one of those chefs too that like did not go to culinary school and was one of the most exquisite pastry chefs I've ever worked for. Yeah. Ever. But you know what? I remember this was like 1999, 2000, and like the chef was putting out really big portions, and as pastry, we were seeing a lot of our desserts come back with like 1 or 2 bites out of it. And there was like a lot of, butting heads against this. And one day I remember I came in, I clocked in, and the chef has a black eye and the pastry chef has a split lip. I'm like, well, what the fuck happened here? And they're like, well, they had too much scotch at the bar. And he's like, yo, you need to make your portions smaller. He's like, I do not. He's like, you need to make your dessert. And it was like, they literally like, that's what the fight was about. Yeah,
but again, that's the stuff that used to happen.
Yes, right. And that was on the regular, right? Like,
I've been in kitchens where that happened where there wasn't any alcohol or drugs involved,
Yes.
I've been in a physical altercation in dry storage and
oh my goodness.
I remember it vividly. And
what was it about? Can you say?
Look, I mean, the guy here's the good news, right? So the guy that I was in the physical fight with also happens to be like one of the chefs that I learned the absolute most from.
I got it.
In my career. I mean, he and I worked next to each other
so you're like
however
brothers.
Many hours a day for years. Yeah. He's also, right now today, Jose Andres' lead in World Central Kitchen. So he's over, I think he's in Gaza right now, of all places.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so he's pretty awesome.
I mean,
and
you know what? Pretty
actually, yeah, so we're pretty close. His name's Mike Lund. And Mike was a former unbelievable butcher, taught me to be the butcher I am. I'm a pretty decent butcher. Everything. I'm talking, deers, ducks, chickens, cows, fish. We used to get in full turbo. We used to get in, full Chilean sea bass. I mean, everything, you name it. And we used to race each other. So anyway, Mike Lund used to be he's a rugby player at the University of Tennessee.
Shut up.
Right? So he was like brawny and strong.
Was this when you were 155 pounds or whatever?
No, actually, so when I was at the Inhale Washington, yeah. I'm not supposed to tell stories about there, but I'm gonna go on the edge.
This is light.
So I'm gonna go on the edge there. So there was a period where I was working out a lot because I had my entire life down there in Virginia I had no friends. I just had to work with them in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. So it was working out. I was actually also a personal trainer at the time because I think I made 11 3/4 at the end at the beginning. So then I made
money.
So I was oddly a live-in personal trainer at the time. So I was pretty strong. And had a different relationship with the Adderall during that job. Anyway, so Mike and I, for years, were we were the butchers, and we had other kitchen responsibilities. But he and I got into it in dry storage one time, and he was very strong. And there was one point in what may have been a wrestling match that was a little more than a wrestling match, where I had just full control of my head. I'm pinned up against the onions, and I was talking shit to him. I didn't start this fight, but I had control. But Mike was scrappy, so he bit me in the arm. And when I say he bit me, like I had teeth marks on my arm. Actually, have you ever seen The Last of Us when they have like they get bit by the
oh my god,
the whatever they are, the zombie things, whatever they are. It's like I had teeth marks on my arm. When he bit me through my chef coat, I thought a chunk of my arm was going to be missing when I looked at it. And when I showed everyone in the kitchen, it was like the funniest thing in the world. They're like,
of course.
And he's like, yeah, I'm a biter. You'll never want to fight. Like, you know, so.
I don't think about the fucking
yeah, I mean,
rules.
he bit me in a way that I've never been bitten.
Oh my God.
Never. And by the way, there was no drugs or alcohol involved at that
is
at that moment.
Fucking bananas.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's
physical
surprising.
altercations.
Like, you're right. Like,
But you have to realize, like, you talk about, like, oh, you slept with your supervisor. Like, he was my direct supervisor, and he beat the shit out of me, right? He beat the shit out of me. And, you know what? I had to take that beating like a man. That was the way it was, you know?
He's like, get me off the fucking onions, dude. Like, just, I
know. It was like that. It was like that.
It was like that. And it's funny. I don't miss it, but I look fondly. I look back fondly. It taught me.
I do too. I actually.
There's like grit there. Right?
I know, but the food was so good. This is the thing. Like, if I could explain to you the result with that pressure
was amazing.
It was special.
Do you have a dish you don't like to make? Like, not in your restaurants. I'm just saying, like, is there a food that you stay away from that you're just like, oh, I didn't even realize I do this, but I don't like to dabble in blah blah blah.
There is. Okay, so I sort of run toward the things that I feel like I'm good at.
Yeah.
And I tend to run away from the things that I feel like there are other chefs or people who do a better job at that than me. Okay. Vegan cuisine.
Ooh, yeah, I can see that.
So, like, I can cook vegan.
Sure.
But I don't think I'm the best at it. And I get frustrated because I've had, like, vegan cuisine that other people make.
It's delicious.
It's okay. So delicious is sort of like, if I'm cooking something, like, delicious is standard.
Yeah.
But it's like, how fucking delicious are we talking? Like,
what level of fucking delicious?
Well, that's what I mean. So, like, can I make you a vegan dish that's gonna, like, leave you in tears?
Yeah.
Yes. Can I make you 10 vegan dishes that'll leave you in tears?
No.
Maybe. Can I make you 20? Definitely not, right? But there are, like, chefs that I know and who are my friends
that specialize.
Well, for example, like Alex Crabb at Asta. His restaurant's right next door to Duave.
Oh, okay.
Also probably going to get a Michelin star.
Yes.
He makes, like, really perfect. Like, so in January, Asta does vegan January, and they only serve vegan tasting menus in January.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So I went to Asta for my 40th birthday, and I've like eaten around the world now, and it was definitely a top 5 meal of my life at that restaurant. It's that good. He's that talented. But so anyway, so the vegan stuff, I'll do it, but I don't, I'm very critical of myself and my cuisine and what I cook and, like, who I am as a person. And I'm also smart enough to recognize that there are people that do things better than I do them. Vegan cuisine's that one thing.
Okay. Well, but you know what? Thank you for your honesty, because there's actually a lot of people that can't acknowledge that people can do things better than them.
You know what's interesting? It's all okay.
It is.
It's all okay.
It's okay. I'm not the best podcaster, but you know what? No one has my personality. No one has, like everyone's going to have a different reaction there.
You know, my solution to this problem throughout my career is to hire people who are good at the things that you're terrible at.
Yes,
that's actually the solution to this problem. And
100%.
And there are things that, like, in life that you'll work at.
Yeah.
And no matter how hard you work at them, you're always going to be a B- student, right? Yeah. But, like, with my obsessive compulsive complexes, the B- doesn't really work for me. So when I'm a B- in something, I try and avoid it as much as I can because it irritates me.
Yeah. Like editing this podcast, where ultimately I'm like, fuck it. I just hired someone who does it well.
Well, yeah. I mean, this editing thing. I want
to do this. I don't want to do that.
And I used to be very, like, active on social media and TV and all that stuff. And I just, like, gave it up because, look, I'll, like, collaborate with people and I'm happy to do that. But I think as soon as Reels came out, I was like, oh, I don't know how to video edit. And you know what? I don't want to spend my time doing it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, look, I've got people on my social media teams and stuff like that, and I'm happy to do it. But, I gained back so much of my life when I stopped sharing it on Instagram.
Yes. I'm not, it's the one thing I dread about the podcast is I have to push it out there.
Yeah.
And this is my 3rd podcast. I know what it's going to take. But so whereas my personal account, I barely share anything unless it was, something like being at the Red Sox game when they won the other day. And it was like that last hit. It was the walk-off home run last week. And it was, something along those lines where it was, like, important to my family and it was cute. And it's not just every mundane detail. It's just, this is what I have. You know what I mean? And like, this is, oh my God, I don't do this all the time, so I'm going to share it.
Right.
Always a good meal, you know, always, you know, but I can't, like, the people that do can't perpetually take it and overshare. Like, that
was me.
It's hard.
It was like live broadcasting my life from the Do-Off kitchen for how many years?
How'd you stop it? What made you stop it?
You know, there's like good attention you get from social media, and then there's not so good attention. And I am not always the best at filtering out attention.
Got it.
Not always the best, right? So I am really happily married with my wife Andrea right now.
She's awesome.
And I like being married. I was married before. And I just don't, you know what's interesting? I wonder why I put so much value for so many years on like, I need to grow this following. This following. It's like now, follow me or don't.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't give a shit.
No, honestly, no.
I really couldn't.
Do you remember when the phrase follow me used to be like, ugh, I don't like her, she's a follower, meaning she didn't have a brain for herself. Like, do you remember when it had a negative connotation?
It's like look, this, I'm sure there'll be studies on this like years from now about what all this era did. But for me, I don't want to talk to that many people anymore.
I know.
I really don't.
I
really enjoy at 9 a.m. on Sundays when I get my screen time report. It's like a competition every week. So the lowest I got my screen time was 2 hours and 25 minutes a day on average.
That's actually awesome.
And I can tell you at the peak that I was at like 8 or 9 hours a day. That. Right. And I mean, and hours on Instagram and things. It's just not for me. For me, I want my time.
Yes. Well, and it's also as you get older, right? So you want your time. You want to spend it with your wife.
Yeah.
You want to go experience things and put the phone down. Like, you know, even our dinners, they're just 4 of us. They're like 15 minutes.
Right.
My husband's... Chris has been getting a lot into cooking. It's great. He's been doing a lot of Stanley Tucci's recipes. Yeah. He's like a little man crush on Stanley.
Yeah.
And most of the time he's doing like a really good job, but we are like phones down. That is our time to like talk to each other, to talk to the kids. Kind of like what we did. Like, I'm, like I said, a few years older than you, but in the 80s, there was no phones. It was you sitting, dinner was when you reconnected.
That was like the other extreme though,
yes,
right?
Yes,
like,
I don't want that back
Do you
either.
remember being bored?
Oh my, Mom, I'm so, yes. I do.
I remember the last time I was bored.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't remember the last time I was bored. And sometimes, God, I wish for it. I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do?
Nothing to do.
The fuck is that?
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means anymore.
Or how about like, oh, there's nothing on TV.
Now there's so much. Now someone's like, what are you watching? I need a show. It's like, remember when you used to read books? I picked up books again.
I still read books.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so
I never
important.
stopped.
Oh my God.
I never stopped.
I stopped. Well, I had kids and I feel like they kind of ruined that. But then when they started getting older and like didn't need me as much, then I like picked up all my stuff and that's when I put down my phone. That's when it was easier. And okay, one more question and then we should wrap it up because oh my God, like I could talk, you're going to have to come back on. Also, I've had a lot of caffeine. I know you don't, I just want to know if you watch this funny, like the chef reactions on Instagram. Okay.
So I don't watch reels or anything. So the only videos I watch on Instagram are the ones that people send to me to watch. So I don't go to the explore. Actually, the explore page. My explore page is so
random.
No, it's filthy. It's absolutely. So I've never been on OnlyFans, but
me neither actually.
But I would assume that like my explore page is like pretty close to OnlyFans, and I don't know what that says about me.
Like a lot of feet and like kink and like.
No, it's actually like
boobs.
Yeah, there's a lot of boobs, but also there's, you know what? I'll tell you how weird these algos are. So my sister Jamie has a beautiful daughter, Nora.
Aww.
And so I don't use Explore. And we were at my parents' house and my sister was nursing. And there was like some sort of discussion about how she was going to nurse, that I was in the proximity. She was like giving me a warning of like, hey, I'm going to nurse just to let you know.
It's out.
Yada, yada, yada. Okay. So this was like a conversation we had in passing, very casual. I get home that night, and sometimes you click over to the explore page like by accident. Like I never want to go to the explore page, but I click over, and when I tell you that I had a full feed of breastfeeding.
Oh my God.
On Instagram, and I'm like, this is not my interest. My sister was feeding my niece. That's not what I want to see and explore. But they keep trying to get me. They're like, we're gonna show him nursing, and then he's gonna not watching it. Try again.
That actually makes me laugh.
Yeah. No, I'm telling you, if I show you my phone and I go to explore, you're gonna be like, who do I have on my couch right now? And I don't even know what's on it. But it's not going to be clean.
I mean, I'm not going to force you. Maybe not.
I actually think people are kind of embarrassed by their explore page now. They're like, well, I don't want you to see who I am and what I talk about.
Mine's cats and weight loss stories.
See, I haven't seen a cat. I haven't seen a cat. Well, I'm allergic to cats. Well, because we're talking about cats, it's listening. Now I'm going to have like cat videos or something like that. Yeah.
Oh my, right? And like that's the thing.
But I'm still not going to watch. They're still not going to get me.
No, they're not.
Because I just can't be that generous with my time.
No. See, but okay. That is a huge takeaway. You cannot be that generous with your
time. And I'm also not their customer. Do you know, in my life, I have never purchased one single thing off of a social media platform. Not one time have I ever bought anything.
Neither have I until I
but until I have. But I've also not once in my entire life been on TikTok.
What?
Yeah, one of my team members like secured my name when it first came out, so no one else could do it. I've never been on it. And I have no interest because I can't.
I don't know how to do it. Like we tried when I had I'm Not Sorry, my other podcast.
Yeah.
Carrie, my podcast partner, and she and I tried. We were so fucking bad at it because we're like, we are not the demo.
But I'm not like, we're not the demo,
but I don't know how fucking use it.
But our mutual friend's entire career happened because of that.
Of course. And like amazing. And she's done all the right things and surrounded herself with a great team who know how to help her do it. And she's also really nice in real life and relatable, right?
See, this is the thing I think has always held me back in life. As much as I've done okay, I don't think I'm that relatable.
Oh, I do.
You think I'm relatable?
Yeah, I'm not even being nice at this point. I would
really
just
see, but that's because you've worked in kitchens. I'm talking about normal people.
I don't know. Okay, I mean, but I haven't done it in a while.
Okay.
I did do it for half my life, so it's like it's instilled, ingrained. I can't unsee the things I saw. I can't unhear. So maybe, but no, I think you're more relatable than you think. I thought it was funny when I saw you at your restaurant. When I went with my friends, we had said hello. I'd spotted you before.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting how you blended in. And that's what I thought was, I actually thought that was kind of cool.
Okay, but what's interesting is our mutual friend is one of the few people on this planet that makes me feel really comfortable. You do too, by the way. That's why I'm here. I wouldn't be here otherwise. But
and I really appreciate that. Ditto. I can't wait to actually go have food with you.
Definitely. But there's for me when I know when I'm with my people and I know when I'm not. I can look at someone and be like, you're my people. Or I can be like, I fucking hate you.
Yes, same. Oh my God. And let me tell you something. This podcast, you would not be on my couch. The lineup that I've had, the people that I've invited on, I appreciate their entrepreneurial spirit, their personalities. There's a draw, there's a connection. Right. I had Malik Williams on a few weeks ago.
Nice.
He's a fucking composer. He's great. But when I met him, when he was schlepping in amps and shit for bar and bat mitzvahs and weddings. Yeah. And we went, I hadn't talked to him in 5 years, and we reconnected and did all the things, and it was a fucking love fest. You know what I mean? There's that, but that comes with age too. I can spot him. I refuse to waste time on people that don't add value to my life at this point.
Right.
And sometimes that's painful because it's they were good friends and now they're not. And I'm not trying to be a dick, but it's
but were they true friends or were they just convenient?
There's a little both, right? And
I have a really hard time sorting that shit out of my head.
It's hard. And also I want to be around the people who knew me as far as Deb's always been the same person. I'm loud. I am not for everyone. And I'm okay with that. You know what? And it took me a while to figure that out and truly be at peace with it. But I want to, like you said, that's my screen time. I'm very social. I love to hang out with people. But if you're not adding value or filling my cup or such a fucking taker, I'm a giver. That's the thing. Yeah. So it's I give and I give and I give. And it's I don't want anything back. But then all of a sudden you have a realization. You're what's this friendship doing for my life?
Well, I don't know if you want anything back, but it's good if they're at least like nice to you.
Well, how about, hey, how you doing? That's what I want.
Checking in, see how you do. You know, it's so funny you say that. So I've been really acutely aware since the pandemic.
Yes.
All right. So I don't want to darken this podcast.
No,
you might even edit this part out, and that's fine if you do. If you edit this out, it's totally fine. My son Carter, who's going to be 9 in July, when he was 5 years old, he got very sick, like rare disease in his brain sick.
Holy shit.
Okay. And let me tell you, when you have a sick kid, how people fucking scatter because they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to hear about it. They don't want that kind of pain.
That's awful. I'm sorry that happened to you.
And that's okay. We're still trying to get him better. It's been 3.5 years now. Okay. The one thing I noticed, and parents who have sick kids, first off, like, I feel for you, and I'm so sorry, because there's nothing worse than having a sick kid.
I can't
nothing.
imagine.
There's actually nothing worse.
Yeah, I agree with
especially when you can't help them and the
Yeah.
doctors can't either. People stop asking you how you are.
Oh my gosh.
Because they don't want to hear about it. And what I've found is that a vast majority of the people whom I've surrounded myself with for most of my life are there for a good time. Right? Think about how I met most of the people that I've met, most of the friends I've had. I've met them at Duave. Why did I meet them at Duave? I spent my whole life there. You know what I mean?
That's where I fucking live.
That was my house.
That's my baby.
I went somewhere to sleep at night and maybe an occasional day off here and there. But anyway, so what I've found is I really pay attention to people who like look you in the eyes and say like, how are you? But that actually want a response to that question.
That's not fine or good. That's like...
Because everyone has their own shit, so they don't want to hear yours.
Yeah, that's fair.
So when you have something like that happen, you start to find out like who your friends are and who they aren't. But also I found, maybe it's like trauma bonds, but I've also found like the most interesting like new friend sets. Like so I've known her for almost 20 years, but I not reconnected. We've always been in touch, but recently I've been talking to Jenny Johnson more. I don't know if you know Jenny Johnson from Dining Playbook. She has a show with Billy Costa.
Yes, with Billy.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
So Jenny, who like, by the way, is an amazing person and has done so much for the restaurant industry in Boston, right? Has 2 beautiful kids. Like the blondest hair, amazing, right? Her kids were sick. And I say were sick because they're not anymore. Okay. But they were sick, and they were sick for like a while.
Like both of them?
Yeah. And she has this woman who fixed her kids with magnets. Way over my head. I can't explain how it works, but she has this like energy healer woman who like fixed her kids with magnets. And I've like seen the pictures and the proof, and like her kids are now better.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So yeah. Wow. Right.
Holy
But
shit.
it's interesting. I was talking to Jenny, and I was just like, hey, you know, like when your kids were really unwell, like what happened with your close friends? You know?
Yeah.
And Jenny was like, come to find out they weren't that close. And I interestingly like kind of went through, that same thing. But you know what? I don't blame people, because I think as humans, it's really important that we protect our energy.
Yeah, I get that.
And I think when my son was in a bad place, I was also in a bad place, right? Because I thought he was going to die.
Well,
so I wasn't sharing the best and most positive energy with
how could you?
People.
But how could you?
But again, when the ride is high and fun and amazing, right? Everybody loves you, everyone wants to be around you, everyone's your best friend, everyone says nice things.
Yep.
But as soon as there's like a turn, people scatter. So, like I said, friends of convenience versus true friends. Don't confuse them.
No, don't confuse. And how is your son? You said he's
going to be turning 9.
And is he okay now, or is he?
So he has a condition called PANDAS, which
I don't know what that is.
So PANDAS, it's fairly rare.
Okay.
And acute and severe cases are even more rare. But essentially, it's a streptococcal infection that crosses the blood-brain barrier and enters the brain. And the strep's really nasty. So like if your kids ever have strep, like get it killed right away. Take it very seriously. But the strep in the brain, you can't really treat it. So when it flares, it causes inflammation in the brain, and inflammation in the brain's really bad. So you're talking like Tourette's, OCD, ADHD, severe, depression, mania, suicidal ideations. I mean, you name it. Every symptom that you can possibly have is like awful. On the table. There's like 38 markers of PANDAS. I think Carter had 36 of them.
Oh, shit.
And, I won't even, that's like a whole nother, it's a whole nother topic. But anyway, so right now, I mean, Carter's stable, right, but we have to keep him healthy. Of course. Right. And keeping him healthy is that's like hard. This whole, he goes to school every day. Kids are sick, so he just can't get strep no matter what happens. So.
Oh, that is so scary. Is he like, oh my God. We'll sidebar, but
another day.
I'm sorry you have to go through that. But I mean, and it is interesting, when you do think about that, like, we all get a little derailed and our energy's different, but it's who's still standing next to you. And you're right. You don't blame people. Some people mentally, they can't take it. You know what I mean? They can't take it.
Or their cup's already full.
Yeah, exactly.
And their cup's already full, right? Like I
cannot handle this, right?
I don't fault people for that, but there's a certain time where you're like, all right, I'll give you a really cool example. He actually doesn't even know this, but I'll just say it, edit it out, whatever. So my best friend's father called me when Carter got sick, and he's done well. And he said, "Hey Chris, my son told me, that the medical bills are getting like a little out of control." And I was like, "Yeah, it's heavy, but we just got to do what we have to do and get him better." And he said to me, "Hey, look, I want you to set up a 501c3 for Carter." And he's like, I have $1 million worth of charitable giving that I do every year, and set one up for Carter, and then that can be allocated for medical bills. Now, by the way, I didn't take him up on that because I would spend every single dollar I've ever made before I ever accepted a dollar from someone else. But just the fact that someone had that thoughtfulness to call and be like, hey, I know you're in a bad place. Here for you.
Oh my God.
It's huge, right? And it's interesting the people who show up and the people who scatter when something bad's happening.
It is. It's very wow.
Right?
That's holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it is. I think it is. I think like you said, everyone has had their shit, is going through whatever. We're all swimming upstream essentially, but at the same time, that's why it's so important to have the good people that are there for the fun too. Like your ride or dies are the people that are there for the fun, but there for when they're holding your hair back, literally and figuratively, when shit, when you're puking. Sorry, that wasn't the most beautiful analogy.
It's true.
But you know what I mean? They're the ones physically there and helping you through it, and then the ones who are boosting you up. And it's and the older I get, I just have to strip myself of the people that aren't doing that. And again, they're not bad people, right? But I just can't dwell, Agreed. I can't dwell, but
agreed.
Will you come back on?
Yeah, for sure. Anytime.
We have so many tabs.
We'll have a different topic set.
Oh my God, 100%. Yeah. And then also we got.
I'll do this anytime you want.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Seriously, I would seriously, and I can't. Oh my God. Well, thank you. I cannot thank you enough for being here. You are amazing, and
you are. No, thank you for the opportunity.
Oh my God, I gotta give you a hug. You are amazing. This is amazing. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Everything. You can find me. I always screw this up at pourmeastory.com. Pour Me a Story podcast. I gotta look at my notes. Isn't this terrible?
I don't think it's terrible.
This is how bad it is. And we didn't even look at our notes at all.
We don't need them.
I know. I was like, oh my God.
I don't need them.
You can find me at pourmeastorypodcast.com, pourmeastory.podcast on Instagram, Pour Me a Story Podcast on Facebook. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, all the things in the world that are relevant now. Where can people find you?
Chef Chris Coombs on Instagram.
Yeah. Oh my God. So you're that's all I need. Awesome.
That's all we need.
Well, thank you for being here. Here, I'll turn this off.
Thank you.